Hello my crafty friends, it's Trinae here and I'm back with my watercolor brushes just as promised, to go a little bit more in detail of what they are and how I use them. About 2 weeks ago I posted the video. It was a color with me and I used these watercolor brushes and I really love the way they came out, and you guys had a couple of questions for me. Ethnic Green Living wanted to know, were these regular markers, I'm gonna read it exactly. She says, are those regular markers? Then you just blend, says spread with the watercolor brush. So these are actually watercolor brushes. They have like watercolor, like the same like watercolor paint that you would find in the pans, or like in the watercolor pencils. It's the similar that's in these markers, just a liquid form, and then the paint is made where you blend it out. And then Lovey asked me if I could go through like be a little bit more thorough with these. So that's exactly what I'm going to do today, just as promised. So I purchased these brushes off of Amazon, and I purchased them probably like a year and a half ago. I've had these for quite some time. As you can tell, like the little packaging is kind of beat up, and it comes with a couple of colors, and I'm gonna slide these out. As you can see, this is how they look. I'm gonna move this to the side for a second. Let's just focus on the markers. So this is how they look, and they have a brush tip. Now the way I use mine is I just add a little bit of the marker onto whatever I'm coloring, and then I take some water with a brush or either a water brush and kind of just pull the color out, because these react to water and they're really super easy to use, and I really like them. In the video I used this water brush. This was one that I received for free. It's the Sakura. It's okay. I have no complaints about it. I just really prefer my good old-fashioned brush. I don't know why. It's just something about this. I just like dipping my brush in regular water. So I got them both out today, and I'm going to walk you through how I color with these. So the stamp set that I'm going to be using today is Critters of the Arctic, and of course this is a Lawn Fawn stamp set, because you guys know I have a Lawn Fawn addiction, and I really think this stamp set is super cute. And I will be using the Strathmore mixed media paper. I purchased this at Michael's and I love this paper. I use it for pretty much everything. I like having just a paper I can use with different mediums. So I use this for watercolor because it's pretty good for both wet and dry mediums. I've even Copic colored on these, and it's cool for that too. It's not as good as the Copic paper, of course, but it's good for that also. And I've even used my colored pencils on this paper, and I just really like the paper, so I use it. For stamping, I will be using VersaFine. And then I will be heat embossing it with some clear Recollections powder. And of course, I always have my tool to just keep the powder from going everywhere. I emboss it whenever I use these markers because it makes the coloring process easy. It kind of creates like a well that your color can stay into. And you don't have to worry so much about going outside of the lines. Let's jump in and get started. I am going to first grab some acrylic blocks so we can stamp out our images. And I'm just going to take my powder tool and rub it across my paper, and this just keeps from that embossing powder from sticking on the paper. Makes your hands super ashy though. And I am just juicing up my ink thing. Oh, my ink thing. Juicing up my stamp. Okay, so we have everything stamped out. I have a little bit of water, my watercolor, not my watercolor, my water brush, and I have just my regular watercolor brush, and I like the Cotman. It's by Winsor and Newton. It's actually a student grade brush. It's really what a lot of programs have art students to use. So it's not too bad in pricing, but you know, it's a little bit more than like if you just get like a run-of-the-mill cheap brush, but it's not as expensive as artist grade brush, and I don't feel like I need an artist grade brush. So this is brown, and I'm just gonna do an example of how the color spreads out, and I am going to pull the color out with both, this is with the watercolor brush. And see, this is why I don't like the watercolor brush, because to me it defeats the purpose when you still have to clean it in water. This is a different color brown. I'm gonna pull this one out using this brush. But you can also just use these with just painting and leaving it to dry. And I'm gonna hit it with my heat gun so you guys can see. So that's how it dries. Let me zoom in a little bit. Oh, zoomed in too much. So yeah, there we go. So those are 3 of the colors right there. So I am just going to get started by painting these little critters. Let's start with the rabbit. I don't know. Let's start with him. So the way I like to do it is I go in wherever I feel like should be the darkest. Like the areas I know that will have a shadow on them. And like, I am not like some expert on like light sourcing. I don't typically worry about stuff like that. And then I just wet my brush. It's not too wet. It's just, you know, pretty damp. And then I just pull that color out. And that way it will be lighter in the middle and darker around the edges where the color wasn't. Did that make sense? I hope so. I hope I'm making sense with explaining this. It's really about just finding your style of how you like your images to look. That's what I do. Like I said, I don't really worry about like having like proper, I don't know, art technique. I don't know. Everything I do with my arts and craft is self-taught. Like, I have not gone to art school, so, you know. And then I just come back in and darken up those little areas that I started out with. I'm just moving that color around a little bit, and that's gonna be it. I don't really like having harsh lines. I like to kind of blend everything. I like it to be subtle, but no, you do it how you like it. And that's the rabbit. So how easy and simple that was. So I am going to add, I think I want him to be wearing a, I'm not gonna do pink. I do pink all the time. I'm gonna do a blue scarf. And I'm gonna show you guys this way. Like, if you want the color to be like very pigmented and vibrant, then just don't use any water. You can just color it straight with the markers, just like I did there. And that's done. Okay, so on the mousse, I'm going to show you how I blend the colors together. Like, I'm going to be using 2 markers, and I'm speeding it up just a little bit because you already have seen the basics of how I lay down my color. So with using 2 markers, with this one, I'm just going to go in and put my darkest color down, and then I'm going to move to the lighter color brown and put it like right up against that dark brown. And then I am just going to take my brush that's, you know, wet, and then pull the colors out. And I find like when I do this, I end up with even more dimension on the end because I'm not necessarily going to wet like the far sides. I'm really going to just move the color around a little bit so that, you know, everything blends, but so I don't lose like that dark color. And as you can see, I am wiping some of the color off on my hand because I was too lazy to get up and get a paper towel. So it's like, you know, when you're painting, use whatever, you know, use a hand, the table, clothes. Like, I have paint on a lot of my clothes. Honestly, it's kind of sad. But you guys get the gist of this. And for the remainder of the video, I am going to turn on some music because I am just going to basically use those same 2 techniques for everything else. Just adding color and then pulling it out with a wet brush, or either mixing 2 colors together and still pulling it out with the wet brush. So that's it for me talking. Okay, so I lied about the talking. I forgot about this part, but what I am doing, I'm taking like the tip of the watercolor brush, and I'm just making little dots on this walrus to create some texture in his skin. I don't know what walrus is. I don't know if it's skin, scales, whatever they have. Just adding a little bit of texture to that, because sometimes critters look better if you add a little texture to their skin. And with this little guy, the color didn't come out quite how I wanted. It was a little bit more purple than what I wanted. So what I did was I removed some of the color by just taking my brush and letting it get really full with water. And then what I do is I take a paper towel or napkin, and then I just press it on top of there to let it absorb some of that pigment, and it will help remove some of the color. So here's my little critters. I really love the way that they came out, and I love using the water brushes as a coloring technique. If you would like to see what I make with these little critters, come back tomorrow. 2 words: pocket letter. Also, be sure to click on my little face button so that you can subscribe to my channel and catch new videos. And here are some videos that you may like. Until next time, I will see you guys later. Bye.